Greetings, salutations, and all good things in between. What's up, everyone? Matt here. Welcome to the first of what's going to be a weekly live stream where I'm going to go over a whole bunch of stuff related to AppSheet. I'm going to review the standard format that I'm going to do here, right? Is I have basically four major segments. The first segment is going to be basically updates about what I've got going on. So I'm kind of changing how I'm going to be releasing things. I'm revamping how I'm distributing my template tables because I got to find a better way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so the way that I'm doing it now is I just have them all inside like a Google folder, and you can just go there and there you go, your heart's content. I have a few disjointed videos that kind of tell you what you need to do, but there's no real good like step-by-step thing that guides you what you need to do. And in fact, some of the template tables out there, they actually require that you do certain things inside your AppSheet app for them to be helpful and fully functional. You know, like you add the table, but that's not enough. Sometimes you got to go through and do some extra bits, right? I got to add some views, some slices. I got to add some virtual columns into the mix, maybe some actions, right? And so like there's some step-by-step things that you need to do. And so I'm trying to find a better way to distribute those, and I have. And so this first part of the stream here is going to be where I'm going to talk about new tables I'm releasing, any kind of new training packages I've got, just kind of, you know, news and updates for me about what's going on with me and like what I'm putting out there for y'all. The second part of this live stream that I'm going to do is I'm going to start reviewing the comments from the YouTube videos. So I'm trying to get myself on a steady schedule where I'm going to release a weekly video, 9 a.m. Central Time, and then 10 a.m. I'll do a weekly live stream, right? And so the idea is I will review comments from last week's video, like this week. So since this is the first one, I don't really have any. And I was looking through some of my other comments and I pretty much answered all of them. So I don't really have much for that segment this time. We're getting started. You know how it goes. But yeah, that's the idea of segment 2 is I'm just going to answer YouTube questions. And if I have to dive deep into something or give like an example or whatever, that's what this is for. Part 3 is going to be reminiscent of what I was doing last year for a while. I did those weekly roundup things where every week I'd put out a video and I'd talk about these were the releases that AppSheet put out. Like I had a lot of people that, like I got a lot of really good comments for those, and that's something that I want to start doing up again. And so I'm going to do it in this live stream. In segment 3, we're going to go over AppSheet news. I'll go over all of the releases that you kind of need to know about, any of the new like updates or changes that they've made, any rollouts or whatever. And then this isn't just focused just on AppSheet. It's also, you know, anything related to AppSheet. So like if there's a really cool new service, you know, like you can integrate like quickchart.io is something that you can like, it's a separate thing, but you can use it in AppSheet and it works totally like synchronous. So like the idea then would be, if there's anything else out there like that, right? This would be the time where I'd tell you about it. And if you have any ideas, if you find anything out in the wild that you want reviewed or that you want to, you know, have me talk about or whatever, there is a link in the description where you can submit your idea and I'll talk about it. That's that one. And then the fourth segment is going to be questions. So this is where it'll kind of be like the meat and potatoes of each of these live streams, where I'm going to go over a question from my Patreon supporters. Usually the questions that I get from these guys, they're usually not the simplest of answered. If you get my meaning, like you got to dive in and it's got to be like a deep dive. It's going to be a 15-20 minute answer with probably some tables that are built and everything. So that's what I'm going to start doing this little ending part right here. And this week I've got scheduled, one of my patrons was asking about how you can control a child like an inline child view from like, so if I'm looking at a parent and I have an inline view that's like a table of records, right? How can I also view that same table of records but in a pie chart? Like, how can I do that? So I'm going to talk about how to do that. I'm also going to talk about how you can add analysis elements to an enhanced dashboard that you have made. So those are the things that I have on the docket for today. So the first thing that I'm going to go over is projects and updates. Yeah. So I kind of already dived into this a little bit when I was going on about it earlier. I'm changing how I'm doing everything, right? So part of that means I'm going to revamp my website. And it's in the works. I'm still working on what I'm going to really do with it. I'm not sure. But I've got, so like the idea that I'm really centering around is like, I like the idea of being able to sell somebody a step-by-step walkthrough on how to do something. Now this is one that I've already pseudo completed for this example, is multi-language support. So the idea is that this module would contain everything that you need in order to implement multi-language support inside your AppSheet app. Now that means there's a whole bunch of different steps that you have to do. Some of these have to be in a specific order of operations, like step 1, do this, step 2, step 3, and if you don't do them in that order, it's not gonna work. Like there's certain things like that have to be done that way. There may also be a template table that I could provide to you that would make implementing the thing that you're trying to implement easier. So the idea is I want to package all of those things together in one thing, right? And then you can like get that. And so like you buy it, it's now part of your account over here on my website. This is future, it's not up right now. And the idea then is you have all of these detailed steps of what you need to do. You get any kind of like files that would need to come along with this for like template tables or whatever. And then you also get, this is the thing that I'm really thinking is going to stand out here, is you also get access to a specific group like dedicated to the topic at hand. The point being, right? So like you're buying this module to teach you how to implement multi-language support inside your app, right? Well, then when you're doing that specific thing, like nothing else, but when you're just doing that specific thing, there are a whole boatload of questions associated to that one little thing, right? And so the idea that I have here is that when you buy the module, you also get access to the group. And so inside the group, that's where anybody else, of course it doesn't work, that's where anybody else that's purchased that module, they have access to that group as well. And so now you have like a little private community where you can ask a question and everybody that's also doing the same thing that you did, they can answer your question. Do you see what I mean? I can see incredible benefit there. Even more so, like maybe somebody takes, because like some of these will have template tables that come with them. So they have a whole bunch of note parameters up in the top. Maybe somebody took that and they fiddled with them. They added some new columns in there, and they made everything look better, right? So like the idea is then that like you'll have access to this community where everybody that's working on the same sort of thing that you're working on, you can all get together in that one area, and all of the questions and all of the answers and everything are right there. Because I think you'll agree with me, right? One of the problems that we have with the AppSheet community is that there's a lot of, like, most of the answers are already there. It's just they're hidden. And like when you go and you're typing in your little search query to start your post, like it doesn't pop up with the actual answers that you need. And for whatever reason, I don't know. So like, one of the things that I've always been trying to find a solution for is that problem. Like, how can I get specific topic answers all in one little area so that like when you're looking for the thing and you're like, oh hey, here it is. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And you're like, oh, holy shit, look at all these answers. Oh man, I got everything I need right here. That's what I'm looking for. Like that's what I want a space to provide. And so that's what I'm looking to do with my website, with all of these modules that you'll be able to buy, that'll have groups that you can be a part of. I'm taking all of my template tables that I have, like the standard starting template. I've got like the onboarding table. The one that I put out for Christmas was the in-app dev checklist. Like these are just the ones that I have here that are kind of done for examples. Like I've got a boatload of these, but most of them require steps to set up. Like, and some of them are quite complex, to be honest. And so like, and some are multi-table dependent. So it's like there's table 1 and then you've got to do a couple of things inside your app, and then there's table number 2 and you got to do some other things inside your app, but you got to do them in this order in order for it to work. This is going to make all of that so much easier. Another thing that I'm throwing out here is A-La-Carte Learning. So like I like the idea of not making somebody buy some giant monstrous $400 training package or whatever just because they want to find this one little tiny little thing that they want. Like I like the idea of, why can't I just get the one little tiny thing that I want? Like that's it. I just want to know, how can I fill in the blank? You know what I mean? So like what I'm planning on doing is basically starting like, you can almost think about it like a technical college type of thing, right? All of this is kind of like a technical college-ish thing where you want to know how to do a hyper-specific task inside of an AppSheet app. You can come on over here. I probably got a module for it. And like, I'm talking about things like, obviously looping with actions. That's out there, it's already whatever. But like how to view an inline view as a different type, but in the same detail view. How to make a bookmark system. How to use one inline button for many uses. Now that's a good one. You get what I mean? They're like, I've got an inline table and I've got a button, but I want to use that button for multiple things because AppSheet keeps the space for each button that you put there. So if I want 5 things to happen, I've got to have 5 spaces.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's all I'm saying. So like this teaches you how you can do one button for all of those things. Fun stuff. Like, and then, some more meat and potatoes things, like how can you get efficient derivative things? How can I import weather data into my thing? Note parameters 101. How can I delete child records with a parent? These are the hyper specific things I'm thinking about, because most of the time when I'm talking to somebody that comes to me for like a one-on-one or whatever, most of the time the problem that they're having is that they're missing one specific tool out of their toolbox. They don't know how to use a slice to create a derivative list inside of a parent or something like that. Or they don't know how to copy child records with a parent. Like there's one specific thing they need to know how to do and they don't know how to do it. But that's the only thing they need to know how to do. You know what I mean? So like, again, I don't like the idea of like making you buy this giant thing just because you need this one little thing. Nah, you should just be able to get the one little thing. So that's what I'm hoping to bring about with my new revamped website. There's a lot of work that's going on. It's been taking me forever. It's coming soon. Stay tuned. All right, now on to the next segment. What are we doing? We are video comments. Yeah. So, there's not really that many comments that have been put out yet. So if I bring this guy over here. So if I look, see, like, now this would be your chance to, like, if you had a burning question for whatever video that I just released an hour ago, if you wanted to get that answered, like, this would be your time. Because, like, I'm going to come in here and be like, thanks, buddy. I'm going to review all the comments right now. And so, like, there's not really that much, and like I said, most all of these I already went through and answered. Like, all of these have been dealt with. There's one that I made a screenshot. If you just kind of bear with me here. So like if we go here, yep, okay, here we go. And like I look at this guy, so if I bring this over, so I had one where this was in a video where I was talking about how you can show QR codes, the different ways you can show them, like how you could use them in a workflow, I believe is the video I was doing. They want me to show how to print a QR code. Yeah, that's not something I'm gonna do in a live stream like this, but I wanted to bring it up because it is on my list. It's like number 2 over here to do. Printing from AppSheet, yeah, that's a thing by itself. Not easy. If you search for that inside the AppSheet community, you're going to find like boatloads of discussions and lots of workarounds, but nothing that's, we're all kind of looking for the yellow brick road, right? We like the easy way, the one formula that does whatever. Yeah, there's really not a thing like that. Like there was at one point, Google had Cloud Print. And like that was pretty slick because you could just send it to the Google Cloud Print and then just configure that thing to do whatever it needed to do. Yeah, so I'll make a video about how to do that where I kind of take all of those bits and pieces that are out there where people talk about, what you need to do and this, that, and whatever. And I'll put them all together inside of one nice, neat little thing. All right, that's basically all I got for the comments. If I kind of go back through here, I have literally reviewed everything. I've been looking, I'm just like scrolling way down to the bottom of the list now. I'm like, I know there was something in here. I was trying to find it before I went live, but it was like, I was looking. I looked down at the clock and it was like 9:55. I was like, oh crap. Okay. never mind. All right. Never mind. Skipping that one for now, I guess. All right, anyways, so that's basically all I got. Again, if you want to get your questions answered and they relate to one of the videos that I'm doing, throw it down in the comments. It'll get done. All right, let's move on. All right. Now I'm going to get back to that wonderful little thing that I used to do where I called AppSheet News. Yay! Oh, I should get some sound effects and things. So every day, AppSheet's releasing something new, right? They push out a release every day. And generally speaking, there's usually some release notes that go along with that. A lot of times the releases that they're doing, AppSheet, are like super highly technical things. But they do tell us, if I just get that on the page here for you, they do tell us about some of the more major updates that they're doing in the release notes here. And so in this segment, I'm going to go over what has happened in the past week. Now, since this is the first one, I know we're just getting started. Since this is the first one, I'm just going to kind of go back over some of the ones that from I guess this month or whatever. I made a little list of the ones that I thought were worthy of note, and to be honest with you, it's pretty small, right? So like if I go over here and we just kind of look at these little notes that I made, should be able to pseudo read those on the screen. So Data Studio is now supported for visualizing data. I don't know if you know what Data Studio is, but it's a Google product that allows you to visualize data. And it's a fully blown, highly advanced, complete visualization studio where you can do an unbelievable amount of complicated things. datastudio.google.com, you think maybe? Hey, look at that. Like, you just look at some of these little examples that they have here and it's like, whoa. So all of this can be tied and powered by a Google Sheet or Sheets, right? And so like the idea would be that you could come here to Data Studio, create whatever sort of visualization that you want where you've got this, you know what I mean? Like this is impressive. This is incredible. And then you could take that and then use that inside your AppSheet app. That's the idea. I haven't played with this yet. Still pretty new. I've been working on website stuff and everything, but you know, it's on the to-do list. So that poses to be a truly powerful thing, because like if I can make a view like this and then like drop this somewhere, yo, talk about the visualization, customization. Like the biggest complaint that I get from people is I can't make it look like I want it to look. Now, like they're making leaps and bounds with that because you've got rich text that's coming in the inside of a long text column type. Like that thing, you can do tons of stuff. Like the mere fact that you can create a table using those HTML tags inside that thing, mate, that is a game changer. Because like now I can create a long text field and like I can have in my mind the idea that it's gonna be a table view where like, because it's one of the problems we have in AppSheet is that you can't put data horizontally next to each other. I can't have like the start date and the end date, like two columns like that. Okay, you know, you could create something where you can concatenate together. This is even better now because now you've got like the box elements around everything to align all of that. So being able to do tables with HTML inside of a long text is going to be a major display game changer in the first place. Then you throw in things like with HTML, you've got horizontal lines, you've got headers, paragraphs, you've got all of that standard formatting stuff. So like that in itself is going to give you the ability to create a view of your data that would be reminiscent of like 1990s, you know, or like the early 2000s of the internet. Really basic, kind of raw, but it works. And it's dynamic based off all of your data. Now you throw in things like, Data Studio. Yo, mate, this is what I'm talking about. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You know what I mean? I have Henny in the chat here. He says, "Hi, Matt. I have a table with 69 columns and 1,400 records in Google Sheets. I am struggling with performance." Mate, I bet you are. Woo, yeah. That's getting up there. What's worse, what really matters though is what are you storing inside the columns? Because you'll find certain strings are longer data than others. Like I've noticed if you have like, I could have a really long, like just like a long text where somebody just free enter text or whatever. And like that's a relatively small thing for the system to load. But I had another one where it was a list of key values. It was storing in a physical value like the "this is what's left" list. And you know, it had like, I don't know, maybe 20 items or whatever. But when I did a check to see how big that cell's data was, that list was huge. It was like a megabyte big or something like that. I was completely blown away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And so like, that's another thing you should check is like how big is, like you don't have to check it all, just like grab one random sample, right, from your data and just see how big each cell value is. There's tools online that you can use. Yeah, so like, you know, if you could reduce that, so you know, reduce the size of the data that your sheet is actually having to hold. Because it's like, you know, your Google Sheet itself is going to be, you know, 1.4 megabytes or something. You know how to pick a number. You can make that smaller to load faster. Now, you say there's no formulas in your sheet, yet it takes 40 seconds to load. Okay. Yeah. Part of the problem that you're going to find there, you can't get away from this. Part of the problem you're going to have is that it just takes so long to read giant things. Like if you go into the logs for that app and you look at one of the sync cycles that happened like when it was loading something that took 40 seconds or whatever. You can go in and you can see the steps for like, why is this taking so long? And I bet you'll find down at the very bottom of these trees, there's a step that just simply says like 15 seconds, read table. Like there's nothing else to do there. It's just, that's the problem, is that the table is too big. It just literally just takes that long to read the data. And when you get to that point, there's really only two things you can do. Split the data up, and so like split it up so in the sense of only leaving the current like active data present in the system and somehow archiving all the old stuff somewhere else. And like you can connect that to an app or even the same app and make a way to switch between the two depending on your license. But just keeping the active data smaller, that'll really, really help. Or just move it all into a SQL server. If you've got the enterprise license and you can move to a SQL server, it's just inherently faster. Not to mention the fact you also get 10 degrees of parallelism versus 4. So you're straight up doubling your speed. You know what I mean? There's that problem that you're dealing with, Henny. Speed, and like it takes my app forever to load. Like there is no one and done solution for that. It's yeah.
Where are you going?
Another way. Always another way.
Always another way. Yeah. Okay, so back to what we were talking about with the release notes, right? Yeah, so Google Data Studio. That's going to be fantastic. The next major thing that I had of note was really kind of a small thing where they said, you're welcome, Henny. It was a really kind of a small thing where they mentioned, I don't know if you remember, so like in the save, do I have an app? Here we go. Yeah, so like in the save dropdown, so if I just do some arbitrary, there we go. Like in here, there used to be a thing that says, oh, no, it's still there for me. That says save and notify. Evidently, that's going away. That's something that they said. It's been vacillating between how many of the paid users and the, you know what I mean? Like they released it for everybody and then we're like, ooh, whoa, maybe we're going to dial that back a little bit. And now they're slowly releasing it. I think today they just released it to, or like yesterday, they just released it to 100% of all free users and like 50 or 20% of the paid ones, but it's going away. I don't know if you used it. I found it kind of helpful. You know, I mean, it was kind of nice to be able to be like, when I was doing all of these updates and I finally got to a point to where I was finally done, you know what I mean? Then I could just be like, cool, all right, here we go. Make sure everybody updates your app. Now, when that goes away, the way that you'll have to do that is, let's see if I remember how to do that. No, security, intelligence, manage. It's in manage now. Over here in broadcast notifications, this is what you'd have to do. So you can come in here and you can be like, hey, there's a new version. Update your app, right? And you can even give them like a deep link to, I don't know, if you got like a welcome page as like a landing page or whatever, you can give them a deep link and then whoop, send that to everybody. That way they know there's something new. So that's that. The only other really big thing of note was an announcement that goes along with if you're using the feature where you can integrate an apps script with your AppSheet app. They now have the ability to return a value. Now this is pretty dope. As in, I think, do I have it open? I had it open here somewhere. Let me find it. Here it is. Return a value. So as in, like, if you're not aware, you have the ability to literally create a Google script somewhere that's relative to your data source in your Google Drive, right? You can create a script, and then from your AppSheet app, you can say, cool, run that, and it'll run that. And if you need to pass it parameters, like maybe I need to pass it an email of the person that's using the system. Maybe I need to pass it an image because I'm gonna, I don't know, do something with the image. Like whatever. You can pass this thing all of these parameters, and like AppSheet's made a really slick, easy like interface inside the automation task bar, you know, on the side where you're setting things up. Fantastic. Now they've upgraded this to where now you can pass things to your script, and now you can get something back from your script. Like when they released this, when they said this was coming out, like blew my mind. Like my mind just started going nuts with ideas that were possible now. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, thank you very much. This is what I'm talking about. So if I just kind of run through this to give you a little, the documentation to give you a taste of what this can do, right? So like, say I've got a function where I say, I pass it a date, and then I return a new date where it's greater than the old date. I'm not sure what's happening here. But like, so I've got a thing where I pass it something and it gives me something back. That's the function, right? Okay, now in AppSheet, I can come down here and I can configure a task to return a value. And you can see they've got like a legit interface that they've created where you can say, what is the thing that you got? Is it a string, a number, a yes, no, a Boolean? Is it a date? Is it an array, as in a list of values? So like, I could pass this thing a list of some things, and it goes through that list and does whatever it's supposed to do. And then when it's done, it gives me like, well, these are the ones that are left over. Like maybe it checks those for errors, and all of the ones that are good are taken off, and the only ones that are left is the ones that have problems. So like, I could pass the list, it chews through, it does whatever it does, and gives me the ones that I need to check. Oh, man, you see what I mean? Like, yo, object. You got an object on here where you can like, if it's an image, I'm assuming, of some type, or maybe a file, like a PDF, maybe I pass some parameters to some script and it creates a drawing, or it creates a PDF, or whatever. It does whatever it does, and it passes that back. You can now grab that and then use it to do something else. So like, you can literally call the step name.output, right? Where you can literally get the value that was returned from the thing. So like this, the order of operations is something like, save a record. The record starts executing this automation. This automation shoots whatever's inside your record to a script. The script does whatever the script does, returns a value. AppSheet then takes that and in the next step in your automation uses whatever the return is to do something else. Further down. Ha, man, like, yo. The possibilities with this sort of system are unbelievable. Like a lot of the problems, a lot of the difficulties that I've faced in the past were usually due to the fact that there was some kind of external thing that we wanted to do that we couldn't easily integrate with. You know what I mean? Like we could pass data to the thing, but then creating a system in which it could return it and return it in the right place where it needed to be, and like the system would know what it needs to do. Like there's a lot going on there, and it's different for everything, and there's, you know what I mean? So like this takes all of that out of the equation. It's like stupid straightforward now. Like create your script, pass the things to the script, it does whatever, rinse, like, yo. Well, like, I got really excited when I saw this one being released, and I was like, thank you, AppSheet gods. You guys rock. That basically marks all of the updates. Like, there's really not a lot of news coming out of AppSheet right now. I can tell you, like, in the back end, there's a lot of work being done for detail views. So, like, I know that's a thing people are really complaining about a lot is, wow, when I view a record on a detail view, like, just for instance, what's on the screen right now, like, this is an AppSheet app, and I'm looking at a detail view of a record, and Like, you got all these giant white bars over here on both sides of the screen that are just wasted space. Okay, so a lot of work is being done on that, but clearly you can understand like how that's going to be a really complex thing. And then you got to build the system so that it's universal in a sense, so that it works for me, it works for you, it works for them, it works for those guys, it works for everybody around the world, no matter what they're doing or how they're using it, right? That's a tall order. They're really close, I'll tell you what. So like, it's coming. So that's another thing I just want to throw out there is the detail view on a desktop. The newer interfaces for that, they're pretty slick and it should be pretty fun. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to Patreon questions. All right, so the question that I'm gonna focus on first is from Jared. So he says, "Hey Matt, I have a question. I have an app that has been collecting daily sales. I've got a dashboard filter from the user table that allows the user to choose the start date and end date and an enum list within days of the week." Fair enough, cool. I've now been asked if I can calculate average sales over a given period of time where a user can select those times. I've been advised in the community that I should create a new table with virtual columns to be able to determine this. I can see how I can sum the related sales through a link, but how would I enable a user to determine the days that they want to determine those averages for? Is there some way to bring that into the same dashboard view and use the same user table filters so that when a user changes those filter parameters, that the averages from the new table are included? Exactly the way to do it. Yeah, mate, 100%. That is absolutely the way to do it. So the thing that I've done here is I've built, let me find it, it's up here in this massive list of stuff. Here we go. I've built the basis for a sample app I'm going to throw out here in the next couple of weeks for an enhanced dashboard. So if you don't know what an enhanced dashboard is, let me tell you. An enhanced dashboard is dashboard, right? But it has two elements. There could be more, but at least two. Where you've got one part that's like a filter control box. Think about it that way, where it has active fields inside their quick edit fields inside of a display type of view so that I can immediately modify their values. And those, whatever values I'm selecting, so maybe I have like a start date, I have an end date, maybe I've got like, I don't know, a client filter or a project filter, whatever. So I've got like drop downs and spaces to enter all of these details inside some table. Generally, it's easiest to just put that inside the user table. And so that's what I've done here is I have a user table and I have this control box where you can see I have all of these fields that a person can now modify whatever's inside these fields. Okay, so that's part one. Part two then is that you take whatever's inside the control box and then you filter your main data table, whatever it is that you're trying to filter, based on the controls over here. So I need to create a slice of my main data table where it's looking at the individual record for whoever's using the app currently. So that's where the easiest way to do this is you just implement the current user thing, right? That's how you do the control box. And then you just look up or you just index out the current user. Let me show you. So inside here, I have a slice where I have the current user where this is a little different because I'm making it for testing purposes, right? So like if it's testing, then we're doing the sample user. Otherwise, this is what you would just normally do. User email equals email. So this holds my specific record, and that's what I'm showing here inside this control box. And this gives me the ability to modify these things to where now I can say something like 0401, I don't know, 2022, maybe? No, I think it's 2021. Yeah, there we go. And like now you can see the lower date is 4/1. So the way you accomplish this, right? So I've got this field over here I have this part of the view over here that's this table view. And if we look at the table that this belongs to, you can see it's a slice. So if I click on that, it's a slice of the construction job entries, which is just my main data table. And it has this row filter condition. It's got a whole bunch of them. So it's basically a series of nested AND statements where each branch of the AND statement either works or it has this fallback of true. And when you do that inside of an AND statement, it basically just means skip this. Because then, like, if this is true and this is true and this is true and this is true, then we've basically skipped all of those, right? And we're going to show the record. It's only when one of these filters is not blank, then we say, all right, well then the construction type for this record has to match whatever that person selected over there. So this is the idea for an enhanced dashboard. And it gives me the ability to where I can select things and change and I can filter. So I can really kind of drill down into the specifics of what I'm trying to find. So Jared has a very similar setup to this. And his question is, how can I take a setup like this and how can I add in some like basic analysis numbers? Like maybe I want to see an average of something for all of the stuff that I see inside that table view. Now, the thing you might be thinking to do is like, okay, I'll just come over here to my view and like, I'll group these by, I don't know, you fill in the blank, right? Maybe I'll make, instead of doing this by times, yeah, I'll do it by date. And then like over here, I've got like, what's the average hours? And so then I can get the average for each day pretty easy by doing something like this, right? But maybe you already have your table grouped. Maybe you don't want to group things. Like me specifically for the thing that I'm building, I don't want it to be grouped like that. I'd rather have them listed like this, where I just have the dates on one side and we put them in order by the date. So like what can I do then? Okay, so the idea then would be, instead of trying to put the data over here, which if we think about it, this is like my main data table. Instead of trying to put it over there, put the data over on your control box. So if we go and look at how the control box works, right? So if I just go in here, so it's on my user table. So I have, you know, an email and a role and ID. Those are the things that matter. And then I've got all of these filter controls. And you can see I even included a couple extra ones in case I wanted to expand this. So the idea then, right, is on this table, on the user table, on my user record, I have all of the data that I need in order to create these sorts of analysis summaries, right? These control the slices. And so what I'm really trying to do is I'm really trying to like sum everything in that slice. I just need a place to store and show that, right? That's what this table is for. Put it here. Now this brings about, you know, not difficulty, but it brings about some peculiarities about how you display this sort of information then, because if you have to think about it, the summary information is going to live on like this control box record. And so, you know, I could just, so let me just include those really quick into this sample app. So I have a slice over here that shows me my dashboard job entries. And so what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to run a sum over that. So if I copy the name of this, I bring this over here. All right, so here's the name of the slice that I want. Now, if I go to my table, columns, go to the data one, right? Okay, so what do I want out of this? So maybe I want to know what is the total hours, right? The total hours for everything inside that slice that I have over there. It's a simple first thing to know. So this is the column value that I want. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put that inside my little formula here. So the idea, right, is go to the dashboard job entries and give me a list of all of the hours. You can see where this is going, right? I just wrap that into a sum. Okay, now that's all you need to do. That formula right there is all that it takes in order to create a sum of all of the hours for everything that you see in that dashboard. For all of those records that exist over here when I'm doing this, like all of these records here. Like when I come in here and I say, I want to limit this to those so that so it starts at April, right? So like when I do that, I want to know how many are there. And like maybe I want to restrict this so that it's only April. Okay, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Maybe is it because that's a valid, yeah, that's why. Not a valid date. So now I only have April. So what do I do now? I've got my virtual column that I need to create because I want to see I at least need some place to store the value. Do you know what I mean? You can display that value elsewhere when you need to, but first you have to have it somewhere. The easiest place is on your user table because you've got your user record isolated out. And so all I'll do is I'll go to my user table, create a new virtual column, come inside here. I have my formula here. I'll just copy that, put it here, wait for it to validate. Yeah. And I'm going to give this a name of like dashboard hour sum. Right? And we'll just save and just push that through really quick so we can see what it looks like. That's the general flow. That's the general workflow that you need to do for any data point that you want. Now, maybe, if you want to do some higher level analysis, if you want to do some derivative style analysis on, take an average and get a max and get a min and then standard deviations or I don't know, whatever, right? So like every individual data point that you want, that's another virtual column. And then if you want to take those, if you want to take multiple of those for another one, that's another one. You'll hear me say it time and time again. The majority of the time, the answer to all of your problems when you're working inside AppSheet is more. More columns, more tables, more time. You're thinking about things too fast. You're skipping steps. More. That's generally the answer is you need to slow down your thinking. There's more steps involved. There's more variables that need to be identified to put in key positions. There's more virtual columns you got to make. There's more tables you got to throw into the mix, more layers generally. So here's number one. And this is just the hour summary. If I go and look at the dashboard and I go here, go to the control box and I add in my hour sum, like maybe I'll put it all the way up here at the top. So now I've got all the way up here at the top, a summary of all of the hours for whatever's inside that this table view over here. And so like if I change this, okay, now you see, here's a problem. It's lagging behind. Now if you watch, as soon as this goes away and now it's done. Now it caught up. So this is another thing that you need to be aware of is that like when you build things like this, this sort of derivative data after the fact, right? Sometimes it'll lag behind. And the lag that you see there is what's happening is the calculation that's happening doesn't happen client side. It's not happening on like the update that's being done that you're waiting to see isn't being done by the device. Like I'm running the app on my mobile phone, but like my phone is not doing that calculation. The server does that calculation. That's why I have to wait for all of the uploads to go and then like that last one, and then there's like a last little bit that's a background ending sync where we're getting everything from the server and throwing it in. That you have to wait for that one. So like if I come in here, so like look at this, so it's 3.4 right now. So like if I do some rapid fire changes where I do that, see it hasn't changed yet. I do this, see it hasn't changed yet. I do that. Okay, now it changed to 0 because it was able to keep up with me. Like if I undo that and I clear this, get some records back inside here. Yep. So look, we have to wait. We have to wait. We have to wait. We have to wait. And there it is. So that's a thing to keep in mind. And that's one of the difficulties that you have when you're building software inside the AppSheet platform, is that a lot of the derivative style data updates that you really need, those are like the key things you're really looking for. They're going to lag behind, and you have to. So, and like, what do you do? So like the solution for that, there's only really two, and none of the, like, one's okay. One of them is you throw in a force sync right there. So like when they're making the change, you can throw a sync in so that it pushes everything super fast, and then you get the data back faster than if you were just to wait for the background syncs to happen. Problem with that, obviously, is like if you're in a situation like this, you obviously can't be sitting here waiting, I mean, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna wait for a sync.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, what do you do? Okay, in some situations the sync will work because it'll just fit into the flow of what's going on, and you can make it work. In situations like this where I've got a control box for an enhanced dashboard and I need that value to update lickety split as the person's making the change, the only solution to that is brute force. Like, you've got to brute force this instead of doing this, right? Where I'm saying, oh, just go to the dashboard and get what's on over there. What you got to do is you got to go to wherever the thing is that you're trying to get, which in this case is this dashboard. And I need to take this formula. You see where this is going? I don't like this already. You need to come in here and you need to change this. Same thing, but I need to change this from being just some quick thing from the dashboard to a hard select that has all of that criteria. So like this becomes select something. Let me drop this down here, right? Where, and then like that giant and statement that I have. Yo, oh man, not a happy day right there. That is not fun at all. One more closing parenthesis to kill that, and then that should go green. Yeah, now I need to change this from that to the original table, whatever it's called. Yeah, construction job entries. So now I'm doing a hard requery of my entries table where all of the criteria from the thing that I'm doing is used. Okay, but now since this formula itself actually lives on my user table, right? I don't need to do this index current user, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to do that. I can get rid of all of that and just leave the column bit by itself. So like all of these parts that say index current user and there's some number crap at the end, all that can go away. So like I just go through here, just leave it like that. And I can do that on everything, all of these. And so what I would do in this case then is like, I'm gonna copy this, I'm gonna go back here to my text editor, right? Smarter, not harder. I'm gonna go Control F and replace. Like I want to replace, hold on. I wanna replace this with nothing. Yup. And I wanna replace that with nothing. Oh, look at that. And I bet you if I just drop that, it should work. Happy days. Look at that. Smarter, not harder. So what's going on here is we're doing a brute force hard select of my main data entry table, grabbing all of the hours where all of the criteria that I've included inside my thing, inside my control box are included. Yay, happy days. The problem that you're going to have here is that it's going to run this formula for every person inside the system. That could be a problem. How many users do you have? How many records do you have inside your construction job entries table? So that means that for every user, it's gonna look through every of those. Now I don't want that to happen. at all. No way, shape, or form. I only want that to happen on my record, or better, more strictly speaking, on the individual record for whoever's currently using the system. So the idea then, right, becomes I want to change this formula to where I want an ifs statement so that like this giant select formula doesn't execute unless it's the current user. So ifs, and then we can go like this. We can say ifs the user ID equals the index current user ID, right? Yep. Pull that out. So if that equals that, do all of this stuff. Otherwise, don't do anything. Come on. What don't you like about this? Time log timestamp. It's the select statement. Oh, I'm confusing the select statements. Aww. I've been having troubles with this lately. Like, this technically should validate, but for whatever reason, it's just not. Like, the ifs statement inside there give it trouble. Now it'll go green. No, see, it was green before. Anyways, you see what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Obviously, having a problem right here. Oh, you know what you might do to solve this? Maybe this is a context problem. This row dot, like I'm like a dog with a bone. I never let things go. Like maybe this is the problem. Change my context so that it knows that these are from the one and that's from the other. Nope. Doesn't like it. Anyways, you see the idea of what we need to do. All right, that is the general idea for how you can apply analysis things for your your enhanced dashboard. There is another way that you can do this. I won't go into a whole bunch of details on this one. Really kind of needs its own video because there's a lot that can be said about it. But the other idea would be, instead of creating this sort of live dashboard where like I'm modifying these values and those values are showing me something in a slice. Instead of doing that, what you could do is you could create a dedicated table. Like I do this all the time. I call it reports, right? And the idea is it's literally just a query builder. It's a table where I've got a whole bunch of different columns that I can literally go through and say, okay, I want a start date of this, an end date of this, right? And at the very end, I have a select statement that's saying, select for me all of the whatevers where all of the criteria, right? And then that select statement, I actually have the list as a physical value inside my report table as like one of the last columns. The reason being, the brute force query to get the result of that list is only happens whenever I modify the record. So like when I create the record and I put in all my criteria and I get to the end point, okay, after that, I don't need that to change unless I want it to change. Do you know what I mean? Like if there's new data in the system, I'll go do, like a lot of times I want to keep the old report and I want a new one so that I can see what's different between the two. Okay, as long as I leave that old record alone, I don't edit it, don't modify it or anything, you can create systems to where like you could lock it down so you can't do anything to it. As long as I have that, I've got that old record. Then I can just create a new one, boom. Or if you don't care about the history, just update it. And now it's updated. The point being though, is that like eventually I'm gonna have dozens, hundreds, thousands of these report records. And I don't want all of those doing this sort of heavy lifting where it's looking through my table that's got, 4,500 rows. No thanks, don't need you to do that. But the idea then becomes like I can create a place where a person can enter the criteria that they want and then like save that. And by giving yourself space, again, like you'll hear me say it all the time, like the answer, the solution is more tables, more columns, more steps, more time. Like when you give yourself another table, that gives you space to store stuff that maybe you weren't thinking I could store before. When you give yourself more columns inside of a column, inside of a table you already have, now you've got more space to store stuff that you probably weren't thinking was a thing that you could store. You know, you're sitting there going, how can I do this? Now you got a space for it. That's the idea. And so like by having a report table, right? What you can do is you not only have a space to store the criteria, but now you have a space to where you can store a link to the file that was made. So instead of like saving the record and making a file that you shoot through an email, right? Instead of doing that, instead what I can do is I can have my automation go through and create the file in the Google Drive, and then I can put a link to that file in the record that the person just saved. And now I have the ability in the app to like click on something and go look at the report from the Google Drive that for everything that I'm seeing. You also have, since all of this is built inside of an AppSheet app, you can just as easily make a live version of that report inside that report table. So like I can look at the report record and then like I have that list of all of the records that we're doing a query for. And like, there you go. I can show all of those. Now I have space. This is the biggest key is like space. You give yourself space to work. Now that I've got that table, I've got a space to store all sorts of analysis things, averages, max, mins, you name it, counts, you name it. I've got a place to store all of these variables. Now, this is where it gets even more fun. You see what I mean? It's like you start adding these in there, it's just like, oh, look at all this that I can do now. Like, what gets even better? Now that I got a space to store all of these variables that are analysis ones of all of the other things, I can store those over time, which means down the road, after I've got dozens, hundreds of these records, now I can then do like a meta analysis of all of those after the fact. Them's where the insights come from right there. Them's the good things. See what I mean? Like, so giving yourself space to do stuff is usually the answer. So that's the other way that you could do a report thing, and I'll put it on my list to make a video for that. That's all I got for today. I do thank you all for hanging around. Let's see, we got some spam up inside the chat. That's nice. Yay, free cheap sex dating. Just that's nice. Whatever. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. I have big things planned for August. I'm gonna obviously keep doing these live streams like this, but in August, I'm going to do a live rebuild of IOTA. So if you're a patron of mine, you can already go over there. I've got two versions of it. One that's like the base standard version, and then I did a multi-company update. So the idea for August, I'm going to call it IOTA August. I'm going to take that, create a blueprint from it, start from scratch. And if you've looked into IOTA at all, you'll see it's massive and like it does a ton of things. So it'll be really good to kind of consolidate all of that and get it done again. Anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, everybody. See you in the community.